Welcome back, treasure hunters. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Chad Summers, a man who turned a simple yard sale find into a hunt for one of America's most legendary treasures. Imagine stumbling upon a mysterious photograph, only to realize it might be the key to a century-old mystery buried deep in the woods of Ohio. Join us as we unravel Chad's journey, a journey that took him from a small-town afternoon outing to an underground world of legends, lost gold, and clues hidden in plain sight. Stick around. You don't want to miss this. On a warm summer afternoon in 2018, Chad Summers and his girlfriend, Hope Bowser, wandered through a local yard sale in East Central Ohio. They were just looking to kill some time, a couple of small-town wanderers with a shared love for old trinkets and relics. It was the kind of sale where dusty glass jars sat side by side with weathered farm tools and boxes of yellowed newspapers. Hope lingered over a vintage picture frame on a rickety card table, her gaze drawn to the old photograph of two serious mustachioed men with a mysterious look in their eyes. "Do you know who they look like?" she whispered, nudging Chad. The figures in the photo had the rugged, sharp features and piercing gazes that reminded her of the pictures of Old West outlaws her grandmother used to keep in Reader's Digest books. It was uncanny. Chad, who'd recently read about Jesse James, stared closer, and his heart began to race. "This has to be Jesse and Frank James," he breathed, running his finger along the worn glass of the frame. Hope shrugged. "Could be," she said, but wasn't convinced. Chad wasn't just sure. It felt like destiny. After much convincing, he and Hope decided to buy the picture, and as they carried it back to their car, something in him shifted. To anyone else, it was just an old photograph. But for Chad, it was a window into an untold story waiting to be unearthed. That night, he couldn't sleep. His thoughts whirled around the James brothers and the legends he'd heard as a boy about lost gold buried by the infamous outlaw. Rumors of treasure buried by Jesse James himself had floated around this corner of Ohio for as long as anyone could remember, although no one ever gave them much credit. But this photograph seemed like a calling, a clue that the old legend held truth, and he was meant to find it. The very next day, Chad went to the woods alone. He often found peace and quiet there, wandering the trails of Hope's family's sprawling 300-acre property, which had been in her family for generations. Her portion, a steep wooded bluff overlooking a creek, held an eerie pull over him, as if the land itself held a secret. That day, he took the photograph with him, as though it might guide him, and after roaming around for a while, he took a break on a narrow ledge against a massive old birch tree, which he'd always found peculiar. The tree's base split into 3 limbs, forming a twisted W, and seemed to stand alone, like a sentinel. As he sat there, the land around him quieted, and he fell into a trance, his mind drifting. In his daydream, he looked over and saw Jesse James himself, clad in a round-brimmed hat and duster, sitting right next to him. Jesse looked at him, flicking ashes from a cigar, and said, "This is where I'm going to bury it, the biggest treasure I ever buried in my life." And just like that, the vision faded. Chad blinked, the sound of the creek below rushing back into his senses, and realized he was alone. But the vision felt real, and something deep inside him knew it was no mere dream. With renewed purpose, he went to the tree and began to dig with his bare hands. It was a wild, almost desperate attempt, he knew, but the vision was so vivid he had to try. The shale and soil gave way surprisingly easily. Within minutes, he'd clawed his way down 2 feet, thence. Before long, Chad decided it was time for a proper shovel. He returned over the next several days, armed with better tools, and dug deeper. Within a week, he was 10 feet down, uncovering small artifacts, a rusted harmonica reed, an ancient tobacco leaf cigar butt, shards of old bottles, all hints that someone had indeed been there long ago. Hope, ever the realist, warned him not to get his hopes up. But Chad was lost in the mystery, and he found himself pulled back to the hole every spare moment. One evening, as the last glimmers of daylight faded, Chad dug down another foot and struck something hard. The clang echoed through the tunnel and he froze. A thrill shot through him. He'd hit something solid. Digging more carefully, he uncovered a smooth, bluish-gray stone surface, a vault or slab of some sort. The find was both thrilling and terrifying. Had he really found Jesse James's treasure? Or had he stumbled upon something else entirely? Chad's obsession with the hole grew. He spent sleepless nights poring over old books, trying to piece together any mention of Jesse James in Ohio, anything that might validate his discovery. He learned that beyond the myth of a bank robber, James had connections to the Knights of the Golden Circle, a shadowy, pro-Confederate group rumored to have hidden treasure caches across the country to fund a second civil war. Intrigued, Chad found an old map online, allegedly drawn by the KGC, showing a hidden depository somewhere near the Ohio River. He laid the map over a satellite image of Hope's property and saw that some of the landscape features aligned. His pulse raced as he realized he might be onto something much bigger than a single gold stash. Hope's brother and family weren't thrilled with the constant digging, especially after Chad brought in extension ladders and even a generator to run lights down into the hole. But Chad's conviction only grew stronger. He found odd markings on nearby trees, symbols he later matched to illustrations in Rebel Gold, a book about KGC treasure. Hearts, turkey tracks, turtles, and most significantly, the letters JJ, as if Jesse himself were marking the way. Soon, Chad's dig drew attention. He contacted Warren Gettler, a journalist and treasure hunter who had spent years studying KGC lore and was fascinated by Chad's story. Gettler arrived with a crew and geophysics equipment. When they scanned the area, the results showed a large metal object buried directly below Chad's hole. The outline on the ground-penetrating radar looked rectangular, perhaps 8 feet wide and 3 feet deep. If it was gold, Gettler estimated it could weigh up to 9 tons. The discovery ignited a frenzy. Neighbors, historians, and even skeptics showed up to watch. Some were convinced Chad had struck gold. Others doubted anything valuable could be buried so far from Jesse's usual stomping grounds. Chad didn't care. He knew this was no ordinary find. The hole had become a vortex, drawing in his time, his energy, and soon, his entire life. Even as they dug deeper, Chad felt they were only scratching the surface of the secrets buried in those Ohio woods. One evening, as they dug down further with the mini excavator Gettler had arranged, a chunk of the wall collapsed, revealing a narrow shaft leading off into the hillside. Chad scrambled down, peering into the darkness. For a moment, he thought he saw a glint of something metallic, reflecting his flashlight. His heart raced as he crawled through, pulling the light with him. There, nestled in the side of the tunnel, he saw it. The edge of something bright and yellow, a sliver of gold. It was both everything he had hoped for and the beginning of a deeper obsession. The gold was only a taste of what lay below, and Chad knew he wouldn't stop until he'd uncovered every last piece. And that, my friends, is how a dusty yard sale photo led one man to the adventure of a lifetime. Chad Summers' story reminds us that sometimes the past is closer than we think, buried beneath our feet, waiting for someone with the courage, or maybe a touch of madness, to dig it up. What do you think? Could there really be treasure left by Jesse James in Ohio? Let us know in the comments if you'd ever go hunting for lost gold. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. Until next time, happy hunting.